Hi there. Bravo 20, which we reviewed a short while ago, turned out to be the best-selling military book of all time in the UK, and it made Andy McNab quite a prominent person. He was interviewed on TV. His opinion was sought on military matters in newspapers and so on. And he started writing fiction, action thrillers. So quite a few of them I've read, and they're pretty good. Um, so he decided to follow up the Bravo 20 with what was really an autobiographical book, and it's immediate action, and it follows his whole career from being basically a foundling, uh, brought up in South London, uh, joins the army as a boy soldier, um, joins the Green Jackets, starts rising through the NCO system there. Uh, in At age 19, he's in a contact in Northern Ireland uh, where he is awarded the military medal. Anyway, he becomes a little bit disenchanted with life in the infantry after a tour of Germany, and he had some contacts with guys from the regiment, and he decides to go for selection, which he, the summer '83 selection. And unfortunately, uh, on the second to last exercise sketch map, he failed to make the timings, and he failed selection. So he comes back uh, for the winter selection of the following year, '84, and he passes. Um, Now, obviously, the book is going into a lot more detail. Other people who were on the course that he knew, or that what happened to them, and so on, and the actual procedure of the different test week exercises. So he goes to the jungle, goes to Brunei, and again, lots of details about the jungle training, just how hard it is doing the jungle ambush drills, jungle lanes, um, and just the grind of operating in the jungle, which really is the real selection for the SAS. That's so some units use shrinks to assess guys. The regiment uses the jungle. Combat survival, where after being on the run, the guys are brought in for tactical questioning, and he goes through his experience of that, where you get the aggressive guy, you get the woman, you get the friendly guy of about his own age, uh, sort of wants you to be helpful to him. Can we just sort out these few things and so on? And they play all sorts of psychological tricks on you. So he passes, is badged, and joins 7 Troop, the free fall troop of B Squadron, uh, who are in Malaysia in the jungle when he joins them. So the book describes, and also he gives the guys um, various pseudonyms, and in various of his writings, these pseudonyms change for the same person quite often, so it can be a little bit tricky following the story. Uh, he goes through free fall training. That's a very interesting uh, part of the book. Uh, how the military train the free fallers. That's his troop skill. His individual skill was what's called DEMS, or explosives, and he talks about the course, 12-week course to do that, all the things they have to do with conventional explosives, and also with improvised explosives, this kind of thing. He goes through the training for Northern Ireland, and we're introduced to Mick Gould, who was the unarmed combat instructor for the SAS. Since leaving that job, he's become very prominent as a technical advisor in movies. So one of the things during the Northern Ireland deployment, he talks about the death of Al Slater, which was covered in a book I talked about previously, which was Baptism of Fire by Frank Collins. So this is from Andy's point of view as a new guy in the troop. He goes really in depth on the counter-terrorist role, and he describes an exercise at a former hospital building where the regiment has to go. He is part of the advance party setting it up and has to brief the guys, and they have an immediate action. Then they start working on the deliberate action plan, and it's really it's a fantastically in-depth look at how they go about it, the role of the police in those exercises and so on. It's real fascinating insight. Then he, the colonel at the time, Andy Massey, decided that the regiment needed to really regain some of the skills that they'd had to do with surveillance and counterterrorism in the urban role with 14th Int, usually known within the regiment as the Det, because it had been set up. It was part of Special Forces, and all the original training had been done mainly by the SAS. And in fact, the first guys on the ground, while they were training people, they sent over a contingent from B Squadron. So over time, that kind of had been lost to the regiment, and Andy Massey wanted it back. So he started sending guys to the Det, and Andy was one of them. And he goes through the training. They don't have to do the Det selection the first couple of weeks, but then they do the training, the foot surveillance drills, mobile surveillance drills, the OP work, and so on. And it's done at a very high level. And he's sent to North Det at Limavady, which is operating in the Londonderry area. And he talks about the ops that they did there. And I think he really shows that he gained a lot from that experience, and that Massey was probably right to reincorporate those skills back into the SAS, although it was seen by most of the guys as a step to avoid an attachment to the Det. Now, at the time the book was written, the Det was really shadowy world, and there weren't many references to it. It was highly secret, and it was a bit of a revelation when Andy McNab wrote this. Then they were sent to Colombia to train the Colombian security forces against the narco traffickers over there, and there was also they were on standby to go and rescue Terry Waite, who was being held hostage in Beirut, and they actually got as far as the rotors of the helicopter were spinning before the job was scrubbed. It's a fascinating book. Andy McNab remains incognito. His face is never shown. And this is for two reasons, he says. One is because of Northern Ireland is working the Det. And if his face was become known, it would compromise possibly some of the stuff he did there. And the other one is really, it gives him an awful lot of freedom because he gets all this success as a writer, but can walk into a pub and no one knows who he is. And this does give him the double access to people. So he can access people as Andy McNabb and meet them officially and do research that way. But he can also meet people informally and get um, a less official view of things. So that's an interesting thing. There's not many writers that keep their incognito present. So it was another bestseller when it came out and still sells, and really another good inside look at special forces.